Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are reading from Adi Lila chapter 6. We'll be reading from verse 16 onwards. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamam bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Lord Vishnu himself is the efficient nimitta cause of the material world, and Narayan in the form of Sri Advaita is the material cause Upadana. This is verse 16. Verse 17, Lord Vishnu in his efficient aspect glances over the material energy, and Sri Advaita as the material cause creates the material world. Verse 19. Verse 18. Although the Sankhya philosophy accepts that the material ingredients are the cause, the creation of the world never arises from dead matter. Verse 19. The Lord infuses the material ingredients with his own creative potency, then by the power of the Lord, creation takes place. Verse 20. In the form of Advaita, he infuses the material ingredients with creative energy. Therefore, Advaita is the original cause of creation. Verse 21, Sri Advaita Acharya is the creator of millions and millions of universes, and by his expansions as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, he maintains each and every universe. Verse 22, Sri Advaita is the principal limb, Anga of Narayan. Srimad Bhagavatam speaks of limb, that is the Anga, as a plenary portion, that is Amsha of the Lord. Verse 23, O Lords of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not? Therefore, my father Narayan. Narayan refers to one whose abode is in the water born from Nara Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and that Narayan is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental. They are absolute and are not creations of Maya. This text number 23, this verse 23 is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, and it is verse number 14. Narayanas tvam nahi sarvadehinam atmasi adhishakila lok sakshi narayano angam narabhut jalayanat tatshapi satyam na tavaeva Maya. Verse 24, this verse describes that the limbs and plenary portions of the Lord are all spiritual. They have no relationship with the material energy. Verse 25, why has Sri Advaita been called a limb and not a part? The reason is that limb implies greater intimacy. Verse 26, Sri Advaita, who is a reservoir of virtues, is the main limb of Mahavishnu. His full name is Advaita, for he is identical in all respects with that Lord. Verse 27, as he had formerly created all the universes, now he descended to introduce the path of bhakti. Verse 28, he delivered all living beings by offering the gift of Krishna bhakti. He explained the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the light of devotional service. Purport, although Sri Advaita Prabhu is an incarnation of Vishnu for the welfare of the conditioned souls, he manifested himself as a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and throughout all his activities he showed himself to be an eternal servitor. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda also manifested the same principle, although they also belong to the category of Vishnu. If Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda and Advaita Prabhu had exhibited their all-powerful Vishnu potencies within this material world, people would have become greater impersonalists, monists and self-worshippers than they had already become under the spell of this age. Therefore, the personality of Godhead and his different incarnations and forms played the parts of devotees to instruct the conditioned souls how to approach the transcendental stage of devotional service. Advaita Acharya especially intended to teach the conditioned souls about the devotional service. The word Acharya means teacher. The special function of such a teacher is to make people Krishna conscious. A bona fide teacher following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya has no other business than to spread the principles of Krishna consciousness all over the world. The real qualification of an Acharya is that he presents himself as a servant of the Supreme. Such a bona fide Acharya can never support the demoniac activities of atheistic men who present themselves as God. It is the main business of an Acharya to defy such impostors posing as gods before the innocent public. Verse 29, since he has no other occupation than to teach devotional service, his name is Advaita Acharya. Verse 30, he is the spiritual master of all devotees and he is the most revered personality in the world. By combination of these two names, his name is Advaita Acharya. Purport: Sri Advaita Acharya is the prime spiritual master of the Vaishnavas and he is worshipable by all Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas must follow in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya, for by so doing one can actually engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Verse 31, since he is a limb or part of the lotus-eyed Supreme Lord, he also bears the name Kamalaksha. So Kamalaksha is another name for Advaita Acharya. Verse 32, his associates have the same bodily features as the Lord. They all have forearms and are dressed in yellow garments like Narayan. Verse 33, Sri Advaita Acharya is the principal limb of the Supreme Lord. His truths, names and attributes are all wonderful. Verse 34, he worshipped Krishna with tulsi leaves and water of the Ganges and called for him in a loud voice. Thus Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth accompanied by his personal associates. Verse 35, it is through him, that is Advaita Acharya, that Lord Chaitanya spread the Sankirtan movement and through him that he delivered the world. Verse 36, the glory and attributes of Advaita Acharya are unlimited. How can the insignificant living entities fathom them? Verse 37, Sri Advaita Acharya is a principal limb of Lord Chaitanya. Another limb of the Lord is Nityananda Prabhu. Verse 38, the devotees headed by Shivas are his smaller limbs. They are like his hands, face and eyes and his disc and other weapons. Verse 39, with all of them Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes and with them he spread his mission. Verse 40, thinking he, Sri Advaita Acharya, is a principle of Sri Madhavendra Puri, Lord Chaitanya obeys him, respecting him as his spiritual master. Purport: Sri Madhavendra Puri is one of the Acharyas in the disciplic succession from Madhvacharya. Madhavendra Puri had two principal disciples, Ishwar Puri and Sri Advaita Prabhu. Therefore, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is a disciplic succession from Madhvacharya. This fact has been accepted in the authorized books known as Gaura, Ganodesha Deepika and Prameya Ratnavali, as well as by Gopal Goswami. The Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 2022 clearly states the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas as follows. Lord Brahma is the direct disciple of Vishnu, the Lord of the spiritual sky. His disciple is Narad, Narad's disciple is Vyasa, and Vyasa's disciples are Shukadev Goswami and Madhvacharya. Padmanabhacharya is the disciple of Madhvacharya and Narhari is the disciple of Padmanabhacharya. Madhav is the disciple of Narhari. Akshobhya is the direct disciple of Madhav and Jayatirth is the disciple of Akshobhya. Jayatirth's disciple is Jnana Sindhu and his disciple is Mahanidhi. Vidyanidhi is the disciple of Mahanidhi and Rajendra is the disciple of Vidyanidhi. Jayadharma is the disciple of Rajendra. Purushottam is the disciple of Jayadharma. Shriman Lakshmipati is the disciple of Vyasatirth, who is the disciple of Purushottam, and Madhavendra Puri is the disciple of Lakshmipati. Verse 41, to maintain the proper etiquette for the principles of religion, Lord Chaitanya bows down to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya with reverential prayers and devotion. Verse 42, Sri Advaita Acharya, however, considers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his master and he thinks of himself as a servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport: the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami explains the super excellent quality of devotional service as follows. Brahmanando bhaved esha chet parardha guni kritaha naiti bhakti sukham bodhe paramanu tulam api. If multiplied billions of times, the transcendental pleasure derived from the impersonal Brahman realization still could not compare to even an atomic portion of the ocean of bhakti or transcendental service. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.38. Similarly, the Bhavartha Deepika states, Tvat Kathamrita Pathodhau Viharanto Mahamudaha Kurvanti Kritinaha Kechich Chatur Vargam Trinopamam. For those who take pleasure in the transcendental topics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the four progressive realizations of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation all combined together, cannot compare any more than a straw could to the happiness derived from hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord. Those who engage in the transcendental activities, service of the lotus feet of Krishna, being relieved of all material enjoyment, have no attraction to topics of impersonal monism. In the Padma Puran, in connection with the glorification of the month of Kartik, it is stated that devotees pray, Varam Deva Moksham na Moksha Vadhim Va na Chanyam Vrineham Vareshadapiha Idam Deva Purnatha Gopala Balam Sada Me Manasya Avirastam Tam Kim Anye. Kuberatmaja Baddha Murtyava Yadvat Tvaya Muchito Bhakti Bhajav Kritucha Tatha Prema Bhaktim Swakam Me Prayacha Namokshe Graho Me Sti Damodareha. This is from the Damodar Ashtakam we sing during the Kartik month. Dear Lord, always remembering your childhood pastimes at Vrindavan, it is better for us than aspiring to merge into the impersonal Brahman. During your childhood pastimes, you liberated the two sons of Kuber and made them great devotees of your lordship. Similarly, I wish that instead of giving me liberation, you may award me such devotion unto you. In the Hayas Shriya Shri Narayan Vyuhastva, in the chapter called Narayan Stotra, it is stated, Na dharmam kamam artham va moksham va varadeshvara prarthaye tava padabje dasyam eva bhikame. My Lord, I do not wish to become a man of religion or a master of economic development or sense gratification, nor do I wish for liberation, although I can have all these from you, the supreme bestower of benedictions. I do not pray for any of these. I simply pray that I may always be engaged as a servant of your lotus feet. Nrsimha Dev offered Prahlad Maharaj all kinds of benedictions, but Prahlad Maharaj did not accept any of them, for he simply wanted to engage in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, a pure devotee wishes to be blessed like Maharaj Prahlad by being thus endowed with the devotional service. Devotees also offered their respects to Hanuman, who always remained a servant of the Lord Ram. The great devotee Hanuman prayed, Bhavabandha Chidde Tasyai Spri Hayami Nam Mukte Bhavan Prabhur Aham Dasa Iti Yatra Vilupyate. I do not wish to take liberation or to merge in the Brahman effulgence, where the conception of being a servant of the Lord is completely lost. Similarly, in the Narad Pancharatra, it is stated, Dharmartha Kama Moksheshu Necha Mama Kadachana Tvat Pada Pankaja Syadho Jivitam Diyatam Mama. I do not want any of the four desirable stations. I simply want to engage as a servant of the lotus feet of the Lord. King Kulashekara, in his very famous book Mukundamana Stotra, prays, Naham Vande Tava Charanayor Dvandvam Advandvam Heto Kumbhi Pakam Gurum Api Hare Narakam Na Panetam Ramya Rama Mridu Tanulata Nandane Nabhirantam Bhave Bhave Hridaya Bhavane Bhavayeyam Bhavantam. My Lord, I do not worship you to be liberated from this material entanglement, nor do I wish to save myself from the hellish condition of material existence, nor do I ever pray for a beautiful wife to enjoy in a nice garden. I wish only that I may always be in full ecstasy with the pleasure of serving your Lordship. This is from Mukundamala Stotra. In Srimad Bhagavatam also there are many instances in the 3rd and 4th cantos in which devotees pray to the Lord simply to be engaged in His service and nothing else. References from Bhagavatam are 3rd canto, 4th chapter, verse number 15, then 3.25.34, 34 and 3.25.36, 4.8.22, 4.9.10, and lastly 4th canto, 20th chapter, verse 14. Verse 43, he forgets himself in the joy of that conception and teaches all living entities, you are the servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The purport, the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so ecstatic that even the Lord himself plays the part of a devotee, forgetting himself to be supreme. He personally teaches the whole world how to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse 44, the conception of servitude to Sri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. Verse 45, he says, Nityananda and I are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Nowhere else is there such joy as that which is tasted in this emotion of servitude. Verse 46, the most beloved goddess of fortune resides on the chest of Sri Krishna, and yet she too earnestly praying begs for the joy of service at his lotus feet. Verse 47, all the associates of Lord Krishna, such as Brahma, Shiva, Narad, Shuka and Sanatan Kumar are very pleased in the sentiment of servitude. Verse 48, Sri Nityananda, the wandering mendicant, is the foremost of all the associates of Lord Chaitanya. He became mad in the ecstasy of service to Lord Chaitanya. Verses 49 and 50, Shivasa Haridasa Ramadasa Gadadhara Murari Mukunda Chandrasekhara Vakreshwara Esava Pandita Loka Param Mahatva Chaitanyera Dasye Sabaya Kare Unmatta. Shivas, Haridas, Ramdas, Gadadhar, Murari, Mukunda, Chandrasekhara and Vakreshwar are all glorious and are all learned scholars, but the sentiment of servitude to Lord Chaitanya makes them mad in ecstasy. Verse 51, E Matta Gaya Nache Kare Attahasa Loke Upadeshe Aho Chaitanyera Dasa. Thus they dance, sing and laugh like madmen, and they instruct everyone, thus just be loving servants of Lord Chaitanya. Verse 52, Chaitanya Gosani More Kare Guru Jnana Tathapiha Mora Haya Dasa Abhimana. Sri Advaita Acharya thinks, Lord Chaitanya, consider me his spiritual master, yet I feel myself to be only his servant. Verse 53, Krishna Premera Eka Apurva Prabhava Guru Sama Laghuke Karaya Dasya Bhava. Love for Krishna has this one unique effect. It imbues superiors, equals and inferiors with the spirit of service to Lord Krishna. Purport, there are two kinds of devotional service, the way of Pancharatrika regulative principles and the way of Bhagavad transcendental loving service. The love of Godhead of those engaged in Pancharatrika regulative principles depends more or less on the opulent and reverential platform, but the worship of Radha and Krishna is purely on the platform of transcendental love. Even persons who play as the superiors of Krishna also take the chance to offer transcendental loving service to the Lord. The service attitude of the devotees who play the parts of the superiors of the Lord is very difficult to understand, but it can be very plainly understood in connection with the super excellence of their particular service to Lord Krishna. A vivid example is the service of Mother Yashoda to Krishna, which is distinct in the feature of Narayan. The Lord can accept services only from his associates who plays parts in which they are equal to or less than him. But in the feature of Lord Krishna, he accepts service very plainly from his fathers, teachers and other elders who are his superiors, as well as from his equals and his subordinates. So as Krishna, Lord accepts service from his fathers, teachers, elders, superiors, and also from his equals and his subordinates, which is very wonderful. The purport tells us, and in the feature of Lord Narayan, the Lord can only accept service from his associates who play parts in which they are equal or less than him. So we'll continue from here onwards next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.